though. Thank freaking God.
Still time.
Yes, there is. Oh, I hope we get through this. Considering we have an executive session at the end, I hope we can fly through everything. Everybody make their comments really brief on me.
No, I'm talking a lot tonight.
Huh?
I'm talking a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Damon's gonna open up, share all his thoughts he's been holding back.
Yeah. I'm not worried about you, Dan. It's the rest of us. I couldn't believe how long that meeting last night.
I stayed till the end because they went into earth removal permitting and stuff.
How long was it?
They ended at 10:30 because they have to, or vote to go on.
They just go around and around and around.
Heather, did I take my paper back?
Nope, I gave it to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't need, I mean, you can hang on to that as long as you need it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's special, but not that special.
Why are you so special? I didn't get one.
Oh, is that the other thing?
That's what Katie got.
How many of you guys got? I didn't even see.
That's very weird.
They just got it like a week and a half ago.
That's very weird, because in mine, she's named.
I wasn't there that night.
Oh, you lucky girl.
Am I?
I think so.
Okay, at 7:11, I will take the meeting out of recess. Welcome everybody and ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Start out by saying, in accordance with the requirement of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. I will start us off with asking if there's any public comment from the board this evening.
I guess I would just make a public comment for anybody who wasn't aware. We started last night at the planning board public hearings about storm resiliency program, which is removing a lot of trees. You may have seen it in places like Townsend where they sort of clear cut around the power poles. There's opportunity for community involvement. We extended our public hearing to
September 23rd, but the planning board's going to be asked to see if they can move it to the 24th because Selectman Jeffries is not able to make the 23rd either, so we wouldn't have a quorum.
Okay, so it's an interesting topic. For example, from Lancaster Ave on Leominster Road to Rolling Acres Road, Unitil is proposing to remove about 72 trees from that 1 mile area. So it's something that we weren't really completely up to speed with, I think, as far as our board goes, and we met for the first time about it last night. And so if you like trees and scenic roadways and things like that, you might want to follow along.
I have a question. Are we going to have a walk so that we can see the trees?
Yes, that's being coordinated as far as the land use director contacted board to set up a walk.
Great.
So
Any other board comment? Public comment from the public.
I forgot, it's the pancake breakfast tomorrow morning. Senior Center, Lions Club pancake breakfast from 8 to 10:30. All you can eat. It's a good time.
Okay, so let's get back down to our first, any announcements from town manager? Do you have any
I have
announcements?
none.
or anything? Okay, so appointments, 7:05, Council on Aging update from the Council on Aging Director and the Council on Aging Chair. I've already called this into the record. Are you planning on a lengthy presentation?
No, but there's a whole bunch of people waiting for something good, it looks like. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm Sue Doherty. I'm the director at the Eagle House Senior Center. And we've been coming up here twice a year and making a report on what we've been doing during the fiscal year and all the good things that have been happening down at the senior center. And so we just have a very brief PowerPoint presentation. And I can tell you, things are really hopping down there. This has probably been one of the best years there. We've had celebrities, real celebrities, bona fide celebrities. The World Series trophy, Chronicle has been there. We are up in our attendance, just about 10%. There's a lot of good things going on. So let me just run through this. And I'm pretty sure they have it in there, so you people can probably see it. So who are we? So we have our COA board. It's an 11-member board, and those are the folks who are on it. Debbie Lincoln, she's our new chairperson. She couldn't make it this evening. Jane Rabbit is the vice chair, and I can't see the pictures from here. I think that's Barbara Brown and Betty DiGiacomo and Sarah Grant. Pete Lincoln, Cheryl Moyson, Diane Nowd, Susan O'Sullivan, Judy Taubell, and J.P. Pacenti. And then we have our staff. There's myself. There's Amanda Keck. She's our administrative assistant and transportation coordinator. Pauline Roy is our outreach coordinator. Sandra Ricci is our mail site manager. We have 2 meal site assistants that you might recognize, Elsa, who's very popular in this town, and Judy Ilario. 3 van drivers, Jim McQuigan, Paul Grunditz, who you all know, and James Barrett. So that's our staff, and that's who we are. What do we do? I'm going to have to read this because I can't see it. We have a mission statement. And the mission of the Lunenburg Council on Aging is to advocate for improved quality of life for all seniors through supportive services, programs, and education. The Eagle House Senior Community Center is a source of service and a place of opportunity, a focal point in the community. We function as an information and referral service for elders and their families. If you have a concern, we have staff available to assist you. Just give us a call. We're open to all people age 50 plus. Just because you're not 60 doesn't mean you can't come up and participate in programs. There's a lot of fun, cool stuff going on. And we offer programs and services that are diverse and inclusive, promote dignity and well-being, support independence, and encourage involvement in community life. So we're really hopping down there. And we have some statistics to prove it. So in FY19 compared to FY18, FY18 we had 815 people come through the door to participate 11,890 times in different activities and services at the senior center. And in FY19 we had 897 people come in and participated 13,357 times. So that's quite a jump, and they do everything from fitness and exercise, support groups. We do a veterans breakfast. We do memory cafes. We do professional services such as notary and tax. Well, we did tax assistance. They dropped us this year. We do congregate meals, cultural programs, the whole 9 yards. We do it. That's just a little bit. We have horseshoes out back. We just had our shuffleboard court finished out there finally after, I think, 3 years of trial and error. We have health clinics. We have music. We just had a baby grand piano donated to us, which is really nice. We have a pool table. We have bocce. We have all kinds of stuff. And this is just some of the people that come up. Let's see, we have the St. Patrick's Day luncheon. We had Elvis Presley. We had Frank Sinatra. We have bingo, the World Series trophy. Ted Reinstein from Chronicle. We do all kinds of crafts. We do intergenerational programs. That's the 4-H group that came up and they made hats and mittens for backpacks to be given out to homeless people. We branched over to the Passios gym. We hold Zumba classes over there and pickleball. We're starting something new this year. It's called Nirvana. It's for better breathing. It's an exercise class, and that should be interesting. And Tai Chi is coming in also. So that's just some of the participants right there. Transportation and Meals on Wheels. These stats usually stay the same. They don't change too much. Transportation, last year we had 71 riders, and they did like 2,964 rides. The year before, we only had 68 riders, but they did 3,244 rides. Go figure, I don't know. It's just one of those things. And the Meals on Wheels stats, this year we had 46 clients that had 4,319 meals delivered. Last year we had 45 clients for 4,114 meals. And that's a stat that I wouldn't care if it went down, because that would just mean that people don't need it, that they're healthy, and that's a good thing. Get next. Community outreach. Our outreach coordinator, Pauline Roy, she does a great job. She came to us when Faith Anderson retired, and she's in charge of client finding, client case management, application assistance, home visits, information and referral, the friendly visitor program, telephone reassurance, seeing for seniors. We do intergenerational programs with the schools called Bridges Together, and she's done a great job with that, and that's really come around, whereas she gets elders to go into the classrooms with the kids and they share life experiences. I think your daughter was in there last year. Yeah. And wellness correspondence, and she does a great job at that. So if you need anything, just give Pauline a call if you have questions about, you know, anything at all. Volunteers. We had 57 volunteers last fiscal year who gave 2,452.75 hours. And the year before, we had 48 volunteers who gave more hours. Once again, we had AARP volunteers last year, and they didn't come to us for a site this year, so that cut down a lot in the hours. So there's always an excuse for something. But we have more volunteers this year, so that's a great thing. And this is an interesting stat right here. Now, I used to say if the volunteers made minimum wage for the town, they would make such and such a dollar, but I found this website, and I think it really shows it a lot better. It's from the independent sector, and throughout the United States, they figure that the average price per hour for a volunteer should be $25.43. So you multiply that by our hours, and that would have saved the town $62,373. So we're doing a big volunteer cookout and recognition ceremony in September, and the police and fire volunteer to cook for us, and our supporters of the Eagle House pay for the food. And it's a good time, so if you want to come on down, have a burger, say thank you to our volunteers, please do. But I like that stat, good. I think that $25 is good. Memory Cafe funding. You've heard me talk about the Memory Cafe before. This is a place for people with Alzheimer's and dementia to go, to feel safe and comfortable, no pressure. It's once a month at the senior center. We have it catered. We depend on funds from different sources. I apply for grants because I want to make it good. I've seen some before that were okay, you know, they're trying, but nobody is as lucky as we have been with getting funding. We've gotten $11,379 from different organizations. Mini grants, Greater Lowell and North Central Mass Community Foundation gave us $5,000. The Lunenburg Turkey Hill Family Lions Club, $1,000. We appreciate it all, and it goes to such a good cause. It really does. And here's some of the faces from the Memory Cafe, and you can see by the, just some of them, they're just so intense. We actually have one of the busiest cafes with a steady clientele of between 15 and 30 people every month, and that's huge. I spoke to somebody from Groton today who took their parents to the one in Groton, and they said they were lucky to get 5. So it's really doing its job. We have different activities and music every month. We have nice food. We set it up like a real restaurant-type cafe. We make it look nice. We have 9 volunteers that help out. It's a wonderful thing. And that will segue right into Dementia Friendly. You've heard this before, too. We have brochures up here. Please take some if you're interested. Dementia Friendly Lunenburg is the initiative we started just about a year ago, and we had a focus group started, which includes the police, the fire, faith-based community, banks, different organizations, and town offices. And we have really come a long way, and I'm proud to say that Patty Sullivan from Mass Councils on Aging has just raved about us to the state at the progress that we've made in less than a year of doing this. We got it together. We had training, Alzheimer's training for Unitil employees. They trained, I think it was 50 some odd line workers and office personnel. They've trained the library, the town hall staff, the senior center, the parks department, and now we're working on getting the businesses trained in the area, the banks and the hairdressers and mom and pop stores and stuff like that, and restaurants. So we've really come a long way with that. Nobody knew what to expect with that, but it's really worked out very well. And I have to thank Keith Lancelotti. He is the chairperson of that committee, and Jane Rabbit is the vice chair. And they do a lot of work. They go to all the Alzheimer's meetings and things like that and learn the latest things and bring them back to us. And Officer McNamara got together the Safe Return program for the police station. So
Sue?
if somebody has a loved one
Sue,
that is one...
can I ask that you grab the mic, because I don't know that the
sorry.
people at home are not hearing you.
Sorry. So Officer McNamara has put together the Safe Return program where you can fill out a form if you have a loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's, and it will be put into a database, and if they wander, we'll be able to pull it up. If somebody is, you see somebody going down the street, you don't know who they are, but you know they're distressed, we can figure out who they are. And I think it came in handy last week. Maybe there was something in town, but it's really a good thing, and everybody's really pulling together with it too. Our 501c3 group, the Eagle House Supporters, I can't even say enough about what they give us. Anything I ask for, they say yes. Last year, they've given us $13,000 in funding for furniture, for programs, for Memory Cafe, for supplies, for volunteer recognition. They pay for the outside gardening, entertainment. It's just great. I don't know what I'd do without them. I wouldn't have any money. And just a reminder to fill out your 2020 census form, because that counts. We get formula grant funding from the state, and what they do is they rely on the federal census, and the last one was taken in 2010. And at that time, we had 2,106 people aged 60 or older, and that adds for $12 per elder, that gave us an extra $25,000 in our budget. There was a study done by the Mass Healthy Aging Community Profile through Tufts Plan in 2018, and they figured that we now have 3,971 people aged 60 or older in the town. And if that's true, at $12 an hour, we'll be receiving an extra $47,652 in our budget. So it's really important to forget anything else on the census that you're worried about and just fill it out and say, this is how old I am and I live in Lunenburg, because it gives us money, and that's what we need the most. And that's it. I told you it was quick. So if you want any more information, there's newsletters up here. There's Memory Cafe newsletters, Dementia Friendly. There's tonight's presentation. So feel free.
I have one question, if I may. Of the people in town that are eligible, that are 50 and over, how many people does the Eagle House and the Council on Aging serve?
Oh, I didn't bring that stat with me.
Okay. well,
But there's a good amount. There is, when I do my annual report at the end of the year to the state, there's a section there because I have to separate the 60-year-olds and the under 60s that come up. And like, for instance, we have a lot of people under 60 come up on Wednesday night for yoga classes. And they come into Zumba. They're probably going to come to Nirvana, you know. But the nighttime class seems to draw them in. We are finding younger seniors to come in just to do different things. They might be disabled and, you know, are coming up to hang with us. And they're gravitating to us, so.
Thanks.
I mean, I'm officially 60 now, so I can actually go there and have a $3 meal and ride the van for 50 cents. I'm not happy about it.
Any
Thank you.
questions or comments from the board?
I think what you're doing is amazing, so
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
All right,
Please extend that to the whole Council on Aging.
will do. Thank you.
Okay, appointments and reappointments. Madam Town Manager.
Yes, so tonight I'm asking you to ratify a number of police department appointments for Police Sergeant Josh Tashi, Police Sergeant Sean Zarate, Full-Time Officer Cameron Monroe, Full-Time Police Officer Samuel Christensen, and Reserve Police Officer Anthony Capucci. And I would ask the Police Chief to come up and speak to these appointments.
Start with the two sergeant appointments, all right? So let me just read, this is probably the best way to do it. And I know this sounds like an old story, I've told you this before, because, you know, I have a criteria that I go by, and I think it's been working all right. Anyways, in a letter dated 18 June 2018, I identified vacancies, one of which was caused by the departure of Lieutenant Luth, who accepted a position as Chief of Police in the town of Groton. The other two were by attrition. Two of the vacancies were that of the patrol shift supervisors or sergeants. At that time, I requested that you appoint Josh Tossi and Sean Zarate as acting sergeants to fill those positions. After more than a year has passed, I respectfully request that these positions be filled permanently. To that end, I posted the job for 30 days in compliance with the CBA and intend on filling the positions, as always, has been my policy with the most qualified officers. The job was posted on June 20th and expired on July 20th. 3 officers responded to sergeant's posting with a letter of intent. I interviewed all 3 candidates and have chosen Josh Tossi and Sean Zarate, the acting sergeants, to fill the positions permanently. Sergeant Tossi was first hired, excuse me, in 2004 as a reserve police officer. During that time, he served with the Townsend Police Department as a reserve officer and was assigned as a campus police officer at Fitchburg State University. Josh was appointed a full-time officer in 2012, and since 2015, Josh has been assigned as a canine handler and traffic enforcement officer. He's undergone training in handling of police canine, which requires an enormous amount of personal commitment and leadership skills. He's also been trained in accident investigation and as a firearms instructor, all of which require a high level of training. In addition, Josh has completed numerous other professional development training evolutions and has taken on responsibilities such as officer in charge of the breathalyzer, evidence officer, field training officer, social media liaison, cruiser maintenance, and various other tasks, which he dutifully carried out. On his time off, Josh serves as a drill instructor with the Fitchburg State University Police Academy program. Sean Zarate began his career with the Lunenburg Police Department in 2008 and was appointed full-time in 2012. Sean served as a reserve officer with the Ashby Police Department, a campus police officer with Fitchburg State University, and was employed by the city of Fitchburg as a parking control officer. Before being promoted as acting sergeant, Sean worked for almost 2 years under the detective sergeant as a community outreach officer. He was assigned to the Lunenburg Public Schools as the first ever school resource officer, which resulted in remarkable success. Sean is a highly trained police officer in the area of computer crimes, retail crime, and fraud, has extensive training as a school resource officer, and has completed numerous other professional development training evolutions, and he too is a firearms instructor. Both Josh Tossi and Sean Zrate's training experience and impressive leadership skills make both of them outstanding candidates for a permanent appointment to sergeant, and it's because of that I'm recommending them for these positions. Because Josh Tossi has been employed as a Lunenburg police officer for a longer period of time than Sean Zrate, I respectfully request that Sean's appointment be effective the day following Josh Tossi's appointment for the purpose of determining seniority. Thank you. That would be the two sergeants.
Thank you, Chief.
We're motion separately, so, or,
You can.
yeah. I move we ratify the town manager's appointment of Police Sergeant Josh Toshi, effective August 13th, 2019, and Police Sergeant Sean Zrate, effective August 14th, 2019.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I've had the distinct pleasure of meeting Sergeant Tossi 27 years ago. And, you know, I think this is probably one of the best parts of our job, being able to support our police. I personally can say that Sergeant Tossi is of an exceptional caliber, as I think all of you who work with him know. The dedication that he gives to our community, his focus, his sense of self, his care. I have extraordinary respect for you, Josh. As a human, as a father, as a fellow member of our community. I hope that one day, you know, certainly one of the two gentlemen here, as well as a lieutenant, that everyone moves up in their positions. Certainly respect all that you guys do, but I think this is an amazing thing, Josh. So it is with a lot of respect that I will vote yes.
Any other comments? I will say that I've known both soon-to-be sergeant or acting sergeant, however that would be right now before we approve them, for many years, since they both were, actually, I think I was on the board when both of them were assigned their full-time positions. I've worked with them for many years in many different regards, most recently with Sergeant Zrate as a board of director on the Boys and Girls Club. And of course, I've known Josh through his training from as a police officer and then with the K-9 unit, and they have been, I couldn't say more than Mr. Jeffries did about both of their positions and their standing in the police force. And to your statement, Chief, I mean, you have really fostered an environment that allows people to stay and promoting their development and their promotions, and it creates a camaraderie that is really exemplary in any public service, and we're very proud to have all of you here on the Lunenburg Public Safety and Police Department.
And I would concur with everything, and I know for me, what brought me into town government was the student safety and security and the school resource officer advocacy, so I think what that does, what I think everybody's saying here is there's a real positive environment between the police and everyone in town. So, and thank you, Sean. The whole school thing was a pretty big deal for me. So that went really well, and I think it was because of him.
So, all those in favor of the motion and approving the town manager's appointments, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. Congratulations to both of you.
Congratulations.
Take the acting and off the title.
I'd like to just go on and then maybe bring everybody up afterwards at the same time. And thanks for the comments. The school resource thing, as we find, is becoming increasingly more important. and very useful. And I hope the town recognizes that and is willing to continue that way beyond my tenure. Anyways, I have two candidates I'd like to propose to be appointed as full-time police officers. Cameron P. Monroe and Samuel W. Christensen for the appointment of the position of full-time officer. Cam and Sam was selected as finalists from a pool of applicants through a hiring process that included an application and pre-screening component and an oral board. All the applicants are currently employed by the police department as reserve officers. Cam is a lifelong resident of Lunenburg. I'm always happy to say this, actually. And a graduate of Lunenburg High School. He currently holds an associate's degree in criminal justice, which he earned at Mount Wachusett Community College. He served as an intern with the Lunenburg Police Department while attending college. Cam was hired as a reserve officer on March 6, 2018 after completing the Municipal Police Training Committee's 315-hour reserve intermittent police academy in West Boylston, and he passed the required employee physical and agility test and an extensive background investigation when he was hired as a reserve officer, and currently passed an entry-level physical and physical agility test as a requirement, again, to enter the full-time police academy. Sam, too, is a lifelong resident of Lunenburg and a graduate of Lunenburg High School. And he currently holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in criminal justice studies, which he earned at Keene State College. Sam was hired as a reserve officer on June 5th, 2018, completed the Massachusetts Law Enforcement Training Alliance Reserve Intermittent Police Academy in accordance with Mass General Law 4196B and the Municipal Police Training Committee standards. Sam has also passed the required employee physical and physical agility test, an extensive background investigation when he was hired as a reserve, and currently passed the entry-level physicals and PAT test. Both candidates have distinguished themselves as highly motivated, hardworking, reliable, and likable employees. It's been because of this and because of their training and education and their performance as reserve officers that I highly recommend both Cameron and Samuel for the full-time police officer appointment. If you do decide to appoint them to full-time status, I'll enroll them in the first available police academy, which I anticipate will commence on November 4th, 2019, in a field school at the MPTC Reading Police Academy. I respectfully request that if you do ratify the appointments, you make Cam Monroe's effective on November 2nd, 2019, and Sam's on November 3rd, 2019, to clarify any seniority issues, as Cam has more time on the job than Sam did. So that would be Cam and Sam, full-time officers.
Move the Board of Selectmen ratify the town manager appointments of full-time police officer Cameron Monroe, effective November 2nd, 2019, and full-time police officer Samuel Christensen, effective November 3rd, 2019.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Congratulations to Cam and Sam.
I have one more. Actually, I'm going to bring one in a couple weeks too, but this, I'm going to hire a girl that I'm sure you'll all love. We've already taken a liking to her. But anyways, tonight, I want to have a gentleman appointed as a reserve police officer. His name is Anthony P. Capucci. Anthony has completed the Reserve Intermittent Police Academy in accordance with MGL 4196B and has complied with the Municipal Police Training Committee standards. He's passed the required employee physical and physical agility test and extensive background investigation. Anthony's a graduate of North Middlesex Regional High School and Bridgewater State University, where he currently holds a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice, and has taken a keen interest in pursuing a full-time career in law enforcement. If appointed, he will be required to undergo a rigorous field training program that will allow for extensive evaluation. This evaluation process, as he proceeds through the reserve field training program, provides our personnel with an accurate assessment of his competency, work ethic, interpersonal skills, integrity, and honesty. In the short time I've known Anthony, I find him to be kind and likable young man who exhibits a strong work ethic. I highly recommend Anthony for a reserve appointment, who I believe, because of his educational background and because of his training, the training he has will continue to receive, will be a strong candidate for full-time employment here in Lunenburg in the future. So I would thank you for considering his appointment as well. Wonderful young kid, and another strong, very strong candidate, I think, for the future. And of course, that's always been my goal. So,
Move the Board of Selectmen ratify the town manager appointment of Reserve Police Officer Anthony Capucci.
A second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
We won't hold North Middlesex against you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Congratulations to Officer Capucci.
all you guys come up here just so the public can see you. And the selectmen. Meet you. So this is Anthony Capucci,
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Cameron, Samuel,
Thank you.
and then Sean Zarate and Josh Howard.
Do you want like a nice photo?
Squeeze in.
I want to thank you all for all the great things you're doing and that you will do coming aboard, and for providing the services for the town, not only in public safety, but in public outreach and coordination with residents, and your demeanor with students and everything. So it really is an exemplary job. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for building such a strong force.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, and you will have some decisions to make in the next year. And I will provide you with a succession plan, I hope. And I hope that you support that too, because I think it's going to be important. We want to.
Sure.
I'd like to keep this going, and I'd like to leave a nice, clean house and some kind of legacy. So thank you.
Greatly
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Chief.
Thank you. Okay. Town manager report.
Wait till it clears out.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
Guess they didn't want to hear your report.
It's all right.
They're all excited.
Yeah. All right, so announcement on existing vacancies. I'm going to do this at every meeting. 1 regular member and 3 alternate vacancies on the Agricultural Commission. 1 vacancy on the Americans with Disabilities Act Commission. 1 design professional, craftsperson, or building contractor familiar with historic renovation for the Architectural Preservation District Commission. A position appointed by the Finance Committee Appointing Committee for the Finance Committee. 1 elected position that would be a joint appointment with the Housing Authority for the Housing Authority. The elected position for the Planning Board that just became vacant, and that would be a joint appointment with the remaining Planning Board members and the Selectmen. 2 elected positions for the Sewer Commission, that would be a joint appointment with the remaining Sewer Commission members and the Selectmen, and 1 regular member and 2 associate vacancies for the Zoning Board of Appeals.
if I can interrupt at this point, I just want to make a small pitch here that just so people are aware. You know, there are all these separate bodies, and they're separate because we didn't want to consolidate power into all in one hand. And yet, it's very important. It takes a lot of people to run all these vacancies and when their commissions and boards and committees are full. But it really needs full attendant. We can't have the vacancies. We really need volunteers to help run all these different departments, whether it's, ZBA or sewer, planning or housing authority, finance committee, architectural preservation, Americans with Disabilities, and agricultural commissions. They all play an important role in town, and the work doesn't get done if we don't have people helping and assisting in that. So I urge people, if you feel the need to get involved and you want to be able to participate and help guide the town in one of those areas, please fill out a talent bank form and help us, work with us to roll up your sleeves and get some of this work done, because with some of these vacancies, we're very, especially on sewer right now, we're very close to not having a quorum, and with 3 members of a 5-member body, if one person's absent, there is no quorum, so the work doesn't get done. So I really urge people, I would say from my own standpoint and from other people I've spoken with, it really is a fulfilling job. It really does give yourself a sense of being able to be part of the community and help guide in whatever small or large way. And I would urge people to really consider doing that. I realize it takes time and energy, but it really is worth it in the end for many reasons. Thank you.
And I just had a question on vacancies not related to volunteerism. Any updates on the building commissioner vacancy?
None right now.
Okay.
The Summer Street Road reconstruction project, the concrete sidewalk and driveway installation is ongoing in the Lunenburg section of the project. It is anticipated that the sidewalks and driveways in this section will be completed by the end of this week. Granite curbing is being installed in the Leominster section of the project, and most of the curbing, with the exception of a few small areas where hydrants are needed to be relocated and a retaining wall needs to be built, will be completed by mid-August. Concrete sidewalk and driveway installation will continue into the Leominster after the completion of the Lunenburg section. The contractor is anticipating placing the top course of the pavement in October. The 2 culvert projects for Northfield Road and Sunset Lane began on August 2nd, thereabouts, and are now complete. Update on the Mass DEP Recycling IQ Kit Grant. All the documents that were required by Mass DEP prior to the execution of a contract to receive the awarded $20,000 for the grant were submitted on July 24th, and a contract was executed on July 30th. We were able to submit all the necessary campaign material orders to the state vendor to meet the timeline. Residents will be receiving a magnet postcard in the mail in the next couple of weeks, and again in approximately 1 month. We'll have signboards at a few locations around town with recycling messages as well. We are advertising for 4 grant-funded positions now that will be doing the curbside checks on recycling and tracking the data. Engineering services for year 2 of the MS4 permit. The DPW director, land use director, and I met with the engineering firm, CEI, that will provide year 2 services for the MS4 permit to review all the associated tasks that need to be accomplished during year 2 and identification of the role and responsibilities of the town staff and those of the engineering firm. A summary of this has been provided to CEI and the Stormwater Task Force, and we have a follow-up meeting this Thursday. I'm also working on the associated contract for this project. ADA Public Rights of Way Public Outreach Survey. Just a reminder that the survey is due by the 16th. So if people can fill that out if you haven't already. And copies are available at the Town Hall, the Eagle House, the Ritter, the library, or can be completed through this site is www.surveymonkey.com/r/Lunenburg_ADA_PROW_plan_survey. And that link is also on the town Facebook page as well as the town website. I know that's a long, we need a simplified short URL for that. But if you haven't already, please fill that out. Walkability and parking study. The walkability meeting for the Whalum area was on Thursday, July 25th, and the walkability public meeting for the Main Street area was on Tuesday, June 30th. We had a good representation of public officials at the Whalum area meeting, with one family that provided a map of prioritized areas where access was needed to be improved. Sherry Bean of Montechusett Regional Planning Agency was at the Whalum area meeting to receive all the input, and the land use director forwarded Sherry all the comments that were received at the Second Main Street area walk. A draft report is expected by the end of September. The FY20 final state budget. The governor signed the FY20 state budget on July 31st, and compared to the state aid and assessment figures that were used at the May annual town meeting, there is an overall decrease of $7,815. I've included a breakdown in your materials for tonight's meeting, but to summarize the increases and decreases compared to the figures used at the annual town meeting for the FY20 budget, I'll go over those. On the revenue side, there was an increase of $32,622 in Chapter 70 funds. There was an increase of $10,707 in charter school tuition reimbursement. There was an increase of $17,686 in smart growth or 40S funds. There was a decrease of $4,088 in school choice receiving tuition. There was an increase of $1,161 in state-owned land. There was an increase of $483 in public libraries, for a total overall increase on the revenue side of $58,571. And on the assessment side and offset side, which, so offsets are both on the revenue side and on the assessment side. There is an increase of $1,860 in RMV non-renewal surcharge assessments. There was an increase of $74,320 in school choice sending tuition assessments. There was a decrease of $6,189 in charter school sending tuition assessments. There was an overall increase in assessments by $69,991 and a decrease in offsets by $3,605. So the net effect, as I stated, from the figures that were used at town meeting and the final state aid figures is a deficit of $7,815. So I just wanted to clear that up because I think there's a report in the Sentinel that looked like we were getting a big influx of additional state aid. So it's actually a decrease in what we estimated at town meeting. Also in the state, FY20 state budget included the following earmarks: $100,000 for self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department, $165,000 for the removal and replacement of the fuel tanks at the DPW, $40,000 for the HVAC at the Eagle House, and $27,000 for the replacement of the handicap ramp at the town hall.
Can you remind people at home how earmarks work, just so they...
They're identified line items in the state budget particular to certain state agencies. So they're like grants. So we'll receive a contract from the state designated, for that amount for this purpose, and we have to use it for that purpose. And it's usually by the end of the fiscal year, unless it's extended.
Are these usually the result of our elected officials in the state house?
Yes. So it has to go through. So we sent a list that we went over to both the state reps and the state senator. They each put into their respective budgets, the Senate budget and the House budget, and they have to work their way through conference committee, which is both representatives from the House and Senate, and ultimately the governor has to sign off on those. So they made it. These projects made it through, which is good for Lunenburg. So thank you to our state senators and state senator. Yeah, state representative and senator. Updates, department head updates. The IT director and the land use director trained the town beach staff on using the online permitting software Viewpoint in order to provide beach passes to the people at the beach. The land use director reported that Arrow Estates has been approved with 5 phases of development that allows for 25 homes per year, with 20% of the homes being age restricted to persons 55 or older. And the planning board is currently working on an earth removal bylaw for the fall town meeting.
Can I ask a question on that? Mm-hmm. Do you happen to know, is every phase subject to the 20% home, so every phase has a 20% component? Or can they put it all off to 20% all to the end?
No.
I think it's
yeah,
divided so that
yes.
some is represented
Okay.
each year.
Okay.
They
Right.
wanted to make sure it wasn't put off to
That's,
the end.
I
and
just
had
wanted
be
to
on
make
the
sure.
front end.
Right, okay, thank you.
That's correct. The Council on Aging Director reported that becoming a dementia-friendly community is going well, as she said tonight. And these are all kind of the repeats. Wellness classes are going well and started with the fall of the TC Passios. There's a blood drive on August 28th. And as the Council on Aging Director reported, there's been a 10% increase in participation compared to the same time last year. PAC Manager discussed the recent FCC ruling on capping PEG fees at 5%, and that Mass Access has proposed a bill to charge charge providers for streaming services. And PAC is in the process of installing new cameras and a TriCaster for the studio. And a new program interviewing department heads is currently being developed that is anticipated to air this fall.
Can I stop you there? I don't understand that first sentence. I don't know what PEG fees are, and, I don't understand that first sentence at all.
Those are what is negotiated through our cable contract for fees that are charged to customers. So those are received in our cable contract. We have a percentage that is captured through those. It's public education, government.
And what percentage are we charging now?
We're at 5.
5.
But is that that's always been 5%. Isn't this the FCC is saying that that part of the 5% may be some of the chargebacks. They want it used to be that you'd give the license and then you'd be able to collect the 5%, but now they want to be able to deduct some of their infrastructure fees against the 5%.
Right.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it would decrease funding going to the towns to run the public access services that up until this point had been reliant on those numbers.
So they're going to take a piece of that 5% and put it sompla else.
They're going to allow the cable provider, the idea is to allow the cable providers to charge the town for some of the, to include, instead of the 5% just being money, they'd be able to include that, well, we maintain, a certain amount of infrastructure and everything toward that, and so their costs in maintaining that would be part of the 5%. So it would basically, on their books, it would be offset it, which is right now it's totally separate.
It completely changed the whole.
The funding.
Funding.
Right.
Wow.
To the detriment of towns.
The judgment of public access
Providing a
broadcasting.
service, yeah.
Yeah, to the benefit of Comcast,
Yeah, well,
whoever the cable is.
right.
I actually have a question that came back to my mind. We used to be able to watch our meetings for a while streaming on YouTube, which I liked, and that went away. Can we follow up on that?
I can ask.
Because for a period of time, you could go on live, and the meeting
Yeah.
that was on that night, you could watch on YouTube, which is great for people who don't have cable, and that no longer is happening. So I'd love to see that come back, because I think a lot of people tuned in to that, or at least I did.
I had an opportunity when I found out it was no longer streaming, I called in, and they, unlike the video signal, which they monitor in the broadcast room, they're not monitoring the live, and there was some interruption in the feed. So the service may not be gone in that they eliminated it. It may just be stuck that nobody checked it, that it's actually feeding. So, but
Okay.
we should check.
I can follow up on that.
Like, I hate to admit, but I watched a meeting at a deck hockey game. Feels wrong.
The finance director is working on closing out the FY19 year end in order to submit for free cash. And the police chief relayed that 11 cars have been outfitted with tablets for e-citations, and they received accident investigation equipment, all paid for through grant funds. The finance director, treasurer collector, assessor's assistant, and I had our first official finance team meeting on July 29th. We will officially be meeting quarterly to review trending of revenues, collections, tax commitments, and any other related finance issues. At This first meeting, we discussed recouping old personal property taxes from business owners and an internal process between departments to capture these outstanding taxes. Attendance at meetings and other announcements. Town Council has office hours on Tuesday, August 20th from 2 to 6 p.m. I'll be attending a dispatch union negotiation meeting on August 14th in Devens and the Stormwater Task Force meeting on August 15th.
Any questions from anybody about town manager report?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will go to the discussion on current business, discussion of appointment of building committee for the design of consolidated town office, school use, and community use space at the current TC Passios building. This was the article that was passed at town meeting in the spring. So I will leave it to you to introduce this about what we need to do.
So although it's not a requirement to create a building committee at this point, because we don't have a building project per se, it's a design of the facility, I would recommend that it would make sense to proceed with appointing such a committee as per our town bylaw under 12-2. It states the process for appointing a building committee for a building project. Simultaneously, we also have designer selection procedures that the town manager appoints a designer selection committee that would review and select a designer for the project. So my recommendation is the board appoint follow the procedure under the bylaw to appoint a building committee, and I would, in essence, appoint that same body to do the designer selection. It makes the most sense.
Does the composition of the building committee, I think, is detailed by the
Bylaw, and I
as
can
well.
read that
Yeah,
to
so
you.
if you would do that.
Yeah. So the committee composition would be a minimum of 7 members, with 1 member from the planning board to be appointed by the planning board, 2 members from the department or board having jurisdiction over the building or a designee, and 3 citizens at large to be appointed by the selectman and town moderator. So the bylaw does not identify a 7th member. That was the odd thing about the bylaw. It designates 6, but, so my personal recommendation, it would be a member from the finance committee, would be.
Okay.
a member.
And what body would this fall under? Because this has a multi-use, this building, so.
Yeah, that's to be, it's up for interpretation.
Can you
okay.
repeat the breakdown?
1 member from the planning board to be appointed by the planning board, 2 members from the department or board having jurisdiction over the building or designee, 3 citizens at large to be appointed by the selectman and town moderator.
Who did the math?
Well, I would say that one of those 2 in the committee, the board having jurisdiction, would be this board, so I'd say 1 member of this board, I would recommend. And at least, I mean,
It says 2 members of this board, right?
well, or designate, we
designate.
can designate too. I would say at least 1 member of this board should be on the building committee.
Yeah.
The missing member to make the 7 school committee member?
No, he
It's
just
not
said
in the
that.
bylaw.
Fine.
No, I mean, we have a empty, I'm just suggesting it as what would the
Okay.
7th be?
Yeah.
Because we only have 6 designated, so I'm recommending
She
that.
recommended finance committee, I think, but that's her.
Oh,
in
okay.
her-
But in the other piece of the bylaw is no one group has a majority. So
Right.
if there, you can't put, weigh it so heavily, that's one.
Right.
So would the finance committee member, in your opinion, be chosen by the finance committee? Like the planning board member is chosen by
I
the
would
planning
think
board?
you would ask for their recommendation, you're right, on who.
Since it's
That
not
makes
listed,
sense.
we could make it anything we want, so.
You're right.
And
Any
who
process. It would make
chooses the
sense that-
citizens at large? We do?
The town moderator and the selectman.
Okay.
Well, the
So
town
together.
moderator and stuff?
Yeah.
That makes 6 people.
No, you choose them. You choose
No,
the 3.
no, that makes 6 people, that means the board of selectmen, and then you add a town moderator.
No. The 3 citizens at large are appointed by the selectman and moderator.
Right, That means there are 6 people selecting. That means there could be an even vote. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of weird to
Like a
add
3 to 3.
Add the moderator in, so you could have,
This
you
math
could have
is,
3
tricky.
ties, but
Probably won't.
It also
Probably.
said a minimum of 7 since it's such a large scope, and I can think of, there's been so many people with interest, maybe somebody from the senior center, somebody from the Boys and Girls Club. I can see, when those could be the citizens, but I can see so many people who would want to have input that it said a minimum of 7. We could go to 9 if we saw the need to bring more voices and thoughts into the project.
I think when it gets over a certain number, it's really difficult to schedule meetings.
I also feel if we don't really bring people in and get everybody understanding the potential for the project, it's less likely to succeed on any level, because I just see a lot of people who are going to want to have input.
But
I think we can get input from people without them having to be on the committee.
Yeah, people can attend the meetings if they're interested.
In fact, I'd encourage public outreach, I think, is one of the big
Would you
big
be
challenges
opposed
of
to 9
this.
people?
Yes. Well, it does get different, it gets unwieldy to
unwieldy.
have conversations, that's all. I mean, so, it's not that it's impossible. I wouldn't go, let's put it this way, certainly wouldn't go beyond 9. I'd probably have to be convinced of 9, but 9 would be the maximum, because anything above that just becomes the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, I think keeping it simple is generally advantageous.
And there are, the citizens at large are 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's, so there are 3 people who aren't on any boards, which is almost 1/2, 3/7 of the committee.
Well, I'm in favor of this.
Yeah, and I think that we shouldn't waste any time putting the group together, because I think we're running out of time to put together a comprehensive package for the spring, if that's the goal. Also throw out there that I'd really be interested in being one of the selectmen representatives on the makeup of
great.
that board, just given my architectural background.
I would
Excellent.
also be interested. Just because we see the building differently, and there's a lot of history here with the Building Reuse Committee that Damon's already contributed, and I think it would be nice to have a different perspective with the space. And I see a lot of, they're already using it right now for extended day again as a school building. So I really think we need to bring in the school perspective and the school campus perspective, because right now that is the biggest user of the building. They're actively going to be having a lot of children on site and on scene there in its current state. So I don't want to lose track of its current use while we're working on it.
And there will be 2 members of this board.
There can't be, that makes a majority.
It can be.
It can be 2.
But then it goes against that rule of anybody having a majority. 2 is a majority to everybody else's 1. technically.
No,
out of
not a
7.
majority of the committee, it's 2/7. You can't have 5.
How did that read?
And there's 3 citizens at
There's
large
3
anyway.
citizens at large, there's 1 planning board member.
Okay, what was that part?
I can find it for you. It's basically, so no one group has a majority on
So
the.
you can't have 4 from 1 space, is that what
Right.
it's trying to say?
Right.
Okay. And do we want to define citizen at large? Because recently the planning board had its own member become a citizen at large for one of its own appointments.
Yeah, I'm not a
By
big fan
filling
of
out a
that.
talent bank form.
Not a big fan of
So
that.
I just want to say that I don't think we should be citizens at large for our own group.
Yeah, I think
I recently
citizens.
saw that happen.
I would say this, at least for this composition of this committee, I would be against anybody applying for citizen at large if they're a member of one of the other committees that's already represented.
Okay.
That's what
Oh,
I would
okay,
say.
so if someone...
So like if
want-
one of the citizens at large was a planning board member, I would not be in favor of
Somebody
that
on the
because there is a planning board member on
filled
it
out a
already.
citizen at large form through Talent Bank to become a citizen at large on a member of.
But
their
a person
designated
from the
committee.
Council on Aging, if
Yeah.
if
That
it's a
seems
group that is
completely-
not represented, could be the citizen at large.
Yeah, I don't think they
Okay.
have to be, they don't have to be somebody who's not on any board or commission, just can't, and again, it's my own personal perspective, I wouldn't
already
want
be
to-
represented.
Right, I want to
Like,
double.
I don't want Damon or I to go out and become the citizen of
Right,
our own.
Right, especially,
Because
yeah. That would
technically
even
we
be
could.
worse because we'd be the people appointing you, and then it would be really bad.
Okay, so correction, if membership exceeds 7, proportional integrity as outlined above shall, to the extent possible, be maintained with no one group having a majority.
Right. So that's
Those
fine.
the same
So
thing.
only if it exceeds 7.
Well, that's because
Because it
it's already
can't
the
be-
definition of 7 or the definition
Right,
of 6
with
is
no-
already.
no one would-
Yeah, we should probably bring that up in the bylaw to
Right,
correct that,
to
to
correct
put
the
the 7th in
7th
there.
member,
Yeah.
yeah.
Otherwise, it just looks like we're bad at math. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, if what I hear, that the board is in favor of going ahead and following the building committee composition.
Yes.
So with the 2 members coming from the department with jurisdiction, do we divide that by one being school committee and one being?
Well, we
No,
could.
that's
I mean,
us.
there's not, yeah, it's, I think for the sake of this,
But I
that
think we're
category.
missing something here with not having somebody specifically representing school thoughts and
Well,
ideas.
that's a good
I have a
point.
problem with
I think
that.
that may be something that we really have to do. You wanted to speak.
Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. My interpretation of that statement is that the jurisdictional department is facilities, which would be the town manager and DPW. The school has no jurisdiction over that building.
Right.
They gave it up.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think by the bylaw they have anything, but I think because of their usage, I think they probably would be a good idea to have somebody represent that interest, because as even the agenda item says, it's going to be a community use, a school use, and town office use. So I think the school probably should be represented, which may lead to the fact that it may convince me that we should have more than 7
I
and
think
should
it
have 9.
would be really uncomfortable for us to be putting together a group and not inviting the school to participate in the conversation, considering they currently use it. I feel
Well,
like that's
and that's one of the uses that's even surrounding it.
proposed, yeah.
So you could have a school person rather than a finance person and keep it at 7.
I love having the finance
Yeah, I think
committee
we'd
as
have-
part of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe we're at the 9 and we can, is there any other group people can think of?
Well, I would
Any
add,
other-
I would add another citizen at large on the school committee.
I would hope that we keep to 7. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
right.
that
Me too.
given my profession in property and contracting, I think that once you start involving a lot of extra people, it makes the conversation really difficult and to be able to progress.
Maybe it should be difficult though, because it's a really complex project. You don't want it to be easy, because the more brainstorming, I think, the better the outcome. I think if you exclude the ability to see more conflict on the front end of it, you will have a better result on the
Yeah.
back end of it.
I think I heard you when you said that the first time. But the other thing that I want to I'll add to it is I think that the school committee should definitely have a voice here. But I'd be curious. We have a meeting with them set up, I think, for what, next week or something, 2 weeks from now. Don't we have a joint meeting with the school committee? And I thought I read that
No.
to talk about the school. To talk about. Okay.
No,
I think
you're,
that we
talking
should-
about, you're talking about a larger meeting that's been asked for by the finance committee
Correct.
to include the school and everything, but that's planned for October.
Oh, okay. What I'm suggesting is that we should have a conversation with the school committee first, and just to see if they're interested in having a person on the board. I don't know what all their individual member contributions or
true.
commitments are. So for us to say today, let's put a school committee member here.
We haven't
but
checked
then
with the
school-
planning board,
but
so.
well, the planning board is required to have someone there if we do this. So, but I would want to check with these other boards first, just to verify that they're interested in this process.
It's composition.
I agree
Ms.
with
Adams,
that.
it would be helpful if you don't interrupt when I speak.
Oh, I'm
I
just
don't do it to you.
brainstorming. I'm sorry.
Well, I can hardly, I'm not against that. I just can hardly see in something that has a school component that the school committee would say, I'm just trying to get my arms around the fact that they would say, yeah, no, we want to be involved.
I expect that they will say yes.
Right.
I fully expect that they'll say yes, but all I'm implying is that with them being an elected body and us being an elected body, that we should verify with them first,
It's just a courtesy.
as a matter of exactly courtesy.
Because it's not spelled out. Right.
No, the building committee is formed by the Board of Selectmen. That's who created, we're the only people who can create the building committee. So we have jurisdiction over, if we want to add 2 more members, we have jurisdiction about what members we want to add.
We could also say they could do a designee, and I'd be shocked that they wouldn't
Right.
take the opportunity to have a designee.
I mean, I'd like to get the committee started. I don't know that, you know, if by chance, let's just say the likelihood, if I went with likelihood, if the likelihood is that they're going to want to be involved, I'd rather say that now, and then if they say, you know what, we don't want to be involved, we can always go back and reduce the number, right? So I'd rather just start out trying to think what would go the first time.
And in terms of the community and the citizens and getting behind any plan, if you exclude involving the school, it's just a shocking start to the space. I mean,
Well, I don't think anybody's talking about excluding them. Mr. Jeffries is asking, should we check with them before we add it?
no, I'm just talking as a parent. I want the school represented. Like, even if they said no, I'd be shocked with that. Like, I'm just saying, as a parent, not looking to seek input from the schools, considering they're currently using it, is potentially shocking to me. Like, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, except that it brings the group to 9, and I really think that's unwieldy, and it'll make it harder for the group to get anything done.
I agree. I move that we create this building committee based on the requirements of the bylaw, and that we offer the 7th position to the school committee.
To the
Second.
school committee, not the finance committee.
To the school committee.
Second.
Just for discussion, I
think
I agree with that process because the finance committee is going to have their day with this, obviously. And I think that presenting it to the whole board of them might be just as effective as having one member sitting. I mean, we're going to come in with the best budget we possibly can to begin with, and they're going to have to help us fit it into the scheme of things moving forward. But I'm not sure how much they're going to contribute on a day-to-day basis of programming the building, if that makes sense.
And in my opinion, the group is going to reach out to Finance Committee.
Right.
Of course.
So I don't think they have to have a member on it. I think to Katie's point, having the school committee involved is more important.
Yeah, for the designing of a building and
Yes.
programming of what goes into it, yes.
Yep.
Certainly finance is absolutely critical to the whole
Yes,
scheme of
yes.
things. But as far as the day-to-day, what they'd be sitting in the meetings twiddling their thumbs half the time, I think.
And we also can appoint, I mean, based on that verbiage, we can designate someone from the school committee. We can appoint someone from the school committee. I'm not school committee, finance committee. We don't, I mean, we're not required.
That is
to
another
appoint.
option. I'm not in favor of excluding the finance committee personally. I think they're an important component, especially since the town manager says that the hope is to make the design committee become a building committee should the project move forward. And with the school building committee that we did for the high school, I mean, finance committee played a big role in that, as did the Board of Selectmen, as did the school committee, et cetera. So, you know, I'm not willing to exclude the finance committee. We could seed one of our 2 parts and say, you know what, we feel it's important, and we'll put 1 selectman and 1 school committee member.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be more in favor of that.
I'd be in favor of that. I would be in favor of appointing 1 selectman and the rest, the 2nd position, school committee. I mean, sorry to keep saying school committee, finance committee.
How many people were on the high school building committee? Was it a 7?
That's a good question.
Recall? Where can we find that?
Do we have?
Do we know that?
It wouldn't be on.
I'm looking
I
at
don't
it
remember.
anymore, I don't
So
think.
we had
7?
2 from the school committee, because they were the body. Then there was
Might be in
1
One
from the
selectman.
selectmen, 1
One
from the
finance.
planning board, 1 from the finance committee, and there probably were 3, I think it might have been 9. Because there were 3, there have to be 3 citizens at large. So I know there were 1, there was 2.
We
Well,
can pull up old minutes.
yeah. Yeah, there you go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 FinCom, 1 planning, 2
what it
school,
says.
1 BOS.
LSBC. So
That's
yeah,
5.
That's by
I don't think
virtue
there
of
were
her
9.
office. So 1, 2 school committee,
Selectmen, Planning Board, 3 citizens, right. So there were 7. There were 7 voting members. There were other people by virtue of their office, like the superintendent, who participated but didn't vote. So there were 7 on that one.
Okay.
Following
And
this, following the outline that we talked about.
And they did 2 school, 1
schools.
BOS.
2 school, because that was the governing body.
Yep.
Then there was the planning board. There was a board of selectmen, finance committee, and 3 citizens at large.
1 planning board, 2 school, finance.
Yep. So what I would recommend then, if everybody's willing, is we seed, because we're the board, quote, in charge, but really it's shared because it has a school component, is that we choose 1 seat and the school committee have 1 seat.
I would,
Should I amend the motion then to reflect that we are going to cede 1 seat?
Well, let's see how people feel about it.
I would rather keep the 2 because honestly, I think having a history of opposing opinions working together is more likely to have an outcome where when it gets somewhere, it's already been hashed out. Like I see a benefit to having 2 of us there, especially if we have a history of looking at it differently. If you find compromise in the process, it's more likely to succeed.
I think we'd
If
be
you
shooting
ignore
ourselves.
the conflict in the beginning,
Yeah.
the conflict exists at the end, and the battle just resumes. And I think there's a benefit to working through people's concerns. So for example, if that's going to happen, which I will work towards it not happening, that's been my advocacy for years, but if it's heading in that direction and it's funded, well then my passion's through the student safety and security, the campus concerns, how we'll use the building with children versus the public. And as it's created, then my concerns can be met so that the space fits for everybody. And I see a benefit in that. So ignoring that differences in opinion, it's just going to be carried to the end of the process. And that's sort of what happened with a lot of the building reuse committee. It just sort of took one opinion and went with it. And so we haven't gotten any product out of that. I think you have a better product if you work through these things in the beginning.
How do you figure we keep it at 7 then?
I think 9.
Oh,
is-
yeah.
is
I
where we're headed.
really think 9 is too many.
I mean, I think
it's-
that, I mean, we seem pretty clear that we're not interested in 9. I mean, I think that seems to be the straw poll here. So, and the second thing is as far as membership goes, how are we feeling about ceding 1 seat to the?
Can we if it's in the bylaw?
What do you mean?
It says that 2 members who have jurisdiction over that space.
Or their designee.
Or their designee.
So you could
we should
designate a
designate
member of the school committee.
Well, funny.
I think the 2 of us who would be okay with 9 lose to the 3 that don't want 9. So I think that is probably a fair statement. I mean, we can certainly take a vote about it, but I think 9 would lose.
Yes.
And so if we had to do 7, then I would take a school committee member over a finance committee member, and leave it at the 2. I mean, the school project had 2 representatives. If this is a town project, I don't see why we wouldn't have 2 members on it.
I have a motion. I want to amend my motion to reflect that we would designate a member of the finance committee instead of that we would designate one of our positions to be a member of the finance committee. So the motion is to create
School
this
committee or the finance?
finance committee. The motion is to create this committee with the 7th position being the school committee,
Okay.
and that we would designate one of our 2 positions
Okay.
to be a member of the finance committee.
I
Who
would
seconded
amend
that?
my
Who-
motion.
you
I would amend the
seconded?
second, yes.
Okay.
I'm honestly fine either way if it were 2 Board of Selectmen members or 1. I assume if Katie were the one selected, she'd express me, give me the same courtesy, but if I'm the one selected, certainly any of her concerns I would try to address as best as possible, and I know she'd be in constant contact anyway, making comments, so either way, I'm fine. Working together, in either capacity, I'm fine.
In either capacity of what?
Of whether we're both on the committee or
Well,
one of
we're
us on.
jumping the gun of who's being on.
I know, but I'm just,
Talking about the
I know, I'm
composition.
just saying the hypothetical. There's 2 people who said they wanted to be
Right,
on it.
I hear you. Okay, is there any discussion, any further discussion on the motion? The motion is that we have one planning board, one board of selectmen, one board of selectmen designee going to the finance committee, 3 citizens at large, and 1 school committee. Is that correct, Mr. Jeffries?
Yes.
Okay.
I think at this point, it's weighted far away from the group that's creating it and sort of spearheading it, and so I think there should remain 2 members from the BOS. I mean, I think we're immediately, you know,
Okay.
I
but
just see a lot of benefit in having,
I hear you.
there's a lot of history there, and I think the outcome's good if we leave the 2 BOS members as I think it's a good gesture tonight to show inclusion in the project, because I can kind of anticipate that potentially I might not make it on to the group. And so I feel like it's exclusionary from its start. It feels unsuccessful already to me.
Okay. Anybody else?
You know, I really feel like it should be kept at 7. Keeping it simple is important. And I agree with Katie that a school committee representative should be on it. I could see the finance committee being consulted and not having a member. But I want to keep it at 7, and I want to include a school committee member.
And I think that's a better compromise.
Okay. All right. Well, there is a motion, unless anybody's reviewing it. The motion is what was made. So all in favor of the motion as made, please say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
I'll abstain from that one.
You know what? I'm going to say aye, because I think it's a good compromise, and I think that's as 3 uses, I think we have everybody commented in, and I would have preferred 9. That was going to lose. So I think it's a good compromise to go with that.
As a follow-up, Mr. Chair, I would also move to designate Damon to be the Board of Selectmen's representative on the committee.
I would second that.
For discussion, what we're doing is we're sending this down the same path it's been on,
Yeah.
which is unproductive to exclude. I'm saying I want to give my input, so if the project happens, the people who there's a large majority of people who do not want to see this project happen, and if you exclude that voice from the inception of a group, it's going to fail, because my advocacy starts now. It's a bad plan because it is looking to continue the dialogue that's been in place since like 2013, which is to make a big mistake and use a really gigantic building that's going to fail us in the long term.
I'd rather have a viable option here than designate someone who I know is adamantly opposed to this plan, as it was evident at town meeting. So I mean, I respect the position that you're in, but I think that we need to. The town has already voted for this to happen.
They voted for the funding to study.
That we have to respect that and give this the right process. I think designating someone to be on this board that is opposed to what their mission is to do to me it's undermining it. I mean, I think that someone who's opposed to this is going to be opposed to it no matter what, and we're going to hear about it no matter what. But I think that we need to get a good option here in front of the town based on their vote at town meeting.
But the minority voice in a project should still be heard. So even if the outcome is one way or the other, you still want to include the input from.
I think this yet to be formed board will certainly consider everyone's opinion, or at least I would
It
expect that they
doesn't
would.
feel like that. We're kind of trying to exclude it. It feels like that's exactly what you just said.
I just chime in and say that I appreciate the nomination and the second, and if it does go forward, that, Katie, I absolutely, if the group doesn't come up with a solution that you can see happening, or at least, feel good about, we haven't done our job. So please continue to share your input and your advocacy, because it's going to be important.
Yeah, I think investing any money in the TC Passios building as a town hall is a gigantic mistake. It abandons all the buildings in town center. It's overly expensive. It's not good for school campus. And I'll just continue my advocacy without participating in compromise, because the exclusionary behavior is not coming from me.
So let me ask you something. So with that last statement that you just said, how would being on the committee affect the committee?
I said in the beginning that then you have to win over the people who are against it. So if it's heading in that direction and you have the input, so a lot of parents from the school don't want to see that activity brought into the school campus. Well, how would we work on the egresses? How would we work on the things to alleviate those concerns? Bringing those concerns into the project helps the outcome for everybody. Excluding it just makes it more likely to fail, which is fine because I hope it does.
Right, but when you have so at least
See,
three
I was
separate.
trying to start with compromise and please include and I would love to participate, and we're doing what we always do to this voice on the project, which is to completely eliminate
Well,
it.
that's outrageous. There's 5 of us sitting here, and we all independently can make a decision. And then when you're outvoted, your response is, well, then everyone hates me, and that's just not what's going on.
Wait, that's-
I said
okay.
I wanted to participate in something, and there was 2 members in the bylaw, so we don't want to make this Katie's overreacting. We just excluded the ability to have 2 members,
Well, but
as it was intended.
by
that we should
definition,
have.
By majority.
by definition, by the previous vote, we only have 1. So you're not the only one excluded from this. 4 of us are excluded.
No, but I mean, it said to have 2, and we just decreased it.
And we voted as a board to do that. I understand that. But the point is that 4 of us will be excluded from the voice. We have to choose one of us to be on there. If there were 2, they would still exclude 3 of us.
Right, and I volunteered. Does anybody want to nominate me to be our 1 member?
Well, but I'm trying to understand.
Seeking a
because
nomination.
What I'm trying to understand is you made it clear, at least twice in the last 5 minutes, that you are adamantly against the project in a general principle.
That's the person you should most want to win over and have there, because we bring it to town meeting. I'm just going to lay out all the reasons that it's a really big mistake.
You're gonna do
But
that
if
anyway.
I
Okay.
participate and we make it a good outcome,
By that logic, and just follow me here, that means somebody who has decided a case in a jury before they've heard the case would be the best people on the jury. Would that logic
if you
follow?
won them over. I just, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that the fact that we didn't even have a school committee member as part of this group in the bylaw says we don't care about the input from parents and schools, and that group is a big voting block, and so.
We just put them in here.
We just put them in.
At your request, we just added them.
I know we did, but you could see
At your request.
when that group was formed, nobody thought of putting the school in it.
Well, it's a
Doesn't
building
Oh,
committee for any
building.
building.
Right.
It could be like a
Because
DPW building.
not all buildings, like if we had to build a library, the school committee wouldn't be on it. There'd be 2 library board of trustees on it. So it's by the body who governs that building.
Half the town are
That's what we're
parents.
asking. So,
More than
and
that.
I would note that all these meetings will be open to the public. I assume, as we did with the school building committee, that the public will have a big input at many different stages of this process. So, voices are going to want to be heard, and I agree with you that without hearing from everybody, that it will fail if we don't hear from everybody.
I mean, everyone has an opinion that's equal. I mean, just because our passion does not make our viewpoint matter more. So, I mean, I think that we all, this is something that our community is moving in this direction. We can do that, and we can disagree. We can certainly have differences of opinions along the way.
I mean, I know that during the school building committee meetings, I made many comments and had much input, and I think I was able to affect the outcome of some things, and I'm proud of that. I wasn't on the committee, but I think some things were different as a result of my input. And I certainly expect to attend some of these meetings as well and have input. I'm sure, I assume my voice will be heard.
Can we, like you and I, both be there and make a quorum, or do we have to start posting them? How will that work?
That's a good question. I'd have to look at that. I mean, if you're just attending and you're not participating, or you're just listening.
She said she had a big influence and impact in that we
Right.
could all do the same.
We'd have to ask. We'll ask that. That's a good question.
And then,
But, if it adversely affected it, I would stay away and watch it on TV and let you attend.
and I just wanted to point out, it's important to always clarify that the town didn't vote for this project to move forward. They voted for the project, for for the studies to be done.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely
that's a
correct.
really important
Yep.
designation.
Absolutely
Because
correct.
sometimes we hear what we just heard, which is the town has voted for this plan. They have not. They
There was no
voted to
plan.
allow us
Right.
to research costs for a plan.
Yep.
Big
Yes.
difference. Because it makes it sound like something's already happened that it has not.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. So, all those in favor of Damon being on the newly formed, what are we calling this?
Haven't formed a name
We
yet.
haven't had a name. The name, as of
Building
right now,
Committee for
nameless
Design of
Building Design
Consolidated.
Committee.
Yes.
Some nice acronym. Aye.
Aye.
Aye for
No
myself.
offense, nay, I would have voted for you if there were two of us.
Okay, so it passes.
And I will send something to the planning board so they can appoint their designee
Yeah,
person.
notify,
member, or
notify everyone, and then we'll have to advertise, well, now our volunteer list just grew by 3. That was great.
as the citizen at large
Yep.
position.
I think we won't have a problem finding 3 people who are gonna want to be a part of this.
We should, like we did with the
Mr.
school
Passios
building
has already
committee.
raised his hand.
Like the school building committee, we should get somebody that has, either engineering or construction experience and things like that as part of it. And,
Sure.
that was very helpful to have on that committee with the school. All right, so that's that. So now we have a letter from the town clerk, a selectman notice of determination to discontinue the use of the AccuVote optical scan tabulator. Sounds very, very intriguing. Effective August 31st, 2019, and replaced with the ICP tabulator.
August 13th, right?
13.
August 31st.
31st.
Where? Oh, way down?
We're taking the vote on August 13th,
Okay.
but the date effective, at least according to the agenda,
Yep, you're right. It's in the
Okay.
last
Sorry about
paragraph of
that.
that letter.
13th, 31st.
Yeah.
What's,
I spoke with the town clerk earlier today about this, and what she wanted to relay was that, well, rather the questions I asked her, and I think what she relayed, was that the current machines that we're using are over 20 years old, that that our decision here tonight is to stop using these older machines, which then authorizes them to pursue the newer machines, which are supported by the Secretary of State, as a good method going forward, that they come with an enhanced level of security. Of course, nothing is more secure than hand counting every vote, but that they come with an enhanced level of security, and that if the state were to move in the direction of doing rank choice voting, that these machines can accommodate that as well. So,
the only question I had is, and I may have missed it because I was asking the town manager something, do these have paper trail? These are all,
yes,
these have paper trail, the new machines?
yes, still a ballot.
They're still a paper ballot?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only thing
Yeah.
that's the primary thing that matters to me.
And
Okay.
these were on the capital plan last year. We bought them through that. So we own them already. We just need to formally start using them.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion regarding this request by the town clerk about the optical scan tabulator, the AccuVote optical scan tabulator, model 3001.
So I move that we replace the existing tabulators with the new ICP tabulator.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? For the record, the ICB tabulator doesn't have anywhere near the cool name.
Although, what's the acronym stand for?
That's a good
Maybe it's
question.
more
We should,
interesting than
we should
know.
probably spell it out. That would put it, is there only just one sheet? Okay, sending it down for signatures.
Insanely cool tabulator.
Okay, minutes.
Caught up here.
We have July minutes, July 9th minutes and June 18th minutes. That should have gone out to everybody. I'm just going to give you the whole. And then May 12th, oh, wait, there's the ones from, I thought she had these last week, but she didn't.
I used a pen
Okay.
from someone.
And accounts warrants. So we have accounts payable $368,412.27.
All the figures match.
Yes. It's beautiful. They're exact. Okay.
They're not off by 100 grand.
Action, that's it for the warrants? Wow.
I know, it's
One
a-
packet? This is a light month. Okay, so action file issues. Any action file issues?
I'd just like to continue to ask if we've heard anything back from the state about adding potential green arrows or changing the traffic pattern at the Walmart intersection.
No,
For
and I
requested
keep following up with the
several
police chief.
concerned citizens.
And what he's waiting on is the crash study reports to be done, completed by MRPC. And those need to be submitted to Mass DOT.
Is there any reason, is it just traffic volume that the green arrows exist in one direction and not the other? Do
I
we
don't know
how that,
how it was originally designed, I'm not sure.
Okay, committee reports. Any committee reports? Mr. Jeffries?
No.
Mrs. Adams?
I would just say I stayed to the end of the planning board meeting last night because their topics were in line with some of our things. And we had talked about earth removal permitting because we currently do it. And, you know, that we would sort of have to all express our support and town meeting will decide. But they're going to be going through an extensive process. They already have a big bylaw that they're reviewing and doing. And so we definitely probably want to follow along their input in their amount of time because it's going to be probably a better product than we currently have. Just sitting through and listening to them to discuss yards and different things, what we currently have isn't really what we currently even use. So it's definitely a space that we're going to improve either way.
Okay.
You gotta hope.
And so one of my thoughts would be, I mean, if it's put together in an article that we're handing it over, even if we don't, I think we want to adopt the new bylaw that they make. You know, just something to keep
Sure.
in mind, that
Sure.
if we don't hand over the authority, that this product should still be something that we're going to probably want to adopt.
Right. Well, presumably what Mr. Burney presented to us is what he's presenting to them, I am assuming. It would be kind of, it doesn't have to be the same, but I'm assuming it's the same since it would save a lot of people a lot of work, that we would be doing that. So, good. Mr. McQuaid, do you have any committee reports? Mrs. Luck?
Just that the Stormwater Task Force is meeting Thursday night with the town manager and the new, our new consultant, CEI.
All right, and I have none. So we go to old business, workshop on Board of Selectmen policies. So I'm going to hand it over to the town manager to ask what exactly, only because this is the first time this topic has come up since I'm chair. So if somebody can provide an update about where we were beforehand.
Yes, so we've made it kind of a tradition every July to do a review of full review of all our policies. And so what's before you tonight, there's 2 policies that were adopted this past year with the previous board, full membership. The Chapter 61, right of first refusal policy, and the flag policy. So those are independent in your folder, but they're incorporated into, and I put them into sections where I thought they were appropriate in the policy and procedures manual. And we also had discussed removing all the personnel policies because an employee handbook was created this past year. So those are no longer needed in a full, because as we discussed last year, it's just so comprehensive document.
Right.
Those are standalone for employees,
Okay. So how that has been voted already?
Yes.
The removal of those? Okay, so we
That
don't have
was
to, we don't have to
discussed, yeah,
revisit that.
right.
Okay, that's number one. The final flag policy, the final right of first refusal, that has already been adopted?
Yes.
Okay. So then we have some recycle policies.
That is a revision. So that's, so there was an existing one.
Right? So draft 7, 2019, that is the revision of it in our,
Yeah, so the
Documents?
buy recycle policy, that's the title of one, is the old one. It was from 2001.
right.
And the 7, 2019 is the revised version.
So just coming into this, something I always ask is that if something is going to be revised, redlining it would make it a lot easier, so we would know what is changing, so I don't have to reread every single word of everything.
A lot of it was scrapped entirely
Okay.
because it was old, but.
So has everybody read the draft of July 2019 buy recycled policy?
Yes.
Does anybody want to make a motion that we accept this and replace the existing one
So
with
moved.
this revision?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on this policy? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so then,
Do you want to go from the draft that I provided with edits?
Sure.
With recommended edits? from
Sure.
that and go just section by section?
Sure.
If there's any comments. And if you want to stop at any point for any of the policies, do it that way.
that's fine, we'll just go through it, and we'll just name the policy and see if there's no edits, so I'm just gonna name it. So the first policy is, well, the first policy is the policy. isn't it?
Right.
All right.
It's the establishment
purpose.
of policies.
The purpose. Anybody have any problem with the purpose? Okay. There's one change from, what did we delete code of conduct?
It was standards of conduct.
Oh, standards of conduct. We just say
And really
duties and
it's-
responsibilities and code of conduct. Okay,
Right,
that
it's
seems-
really a code of conduct, not a standards,
Right.
because
Fair
there
enough.
is a mass general law that refers to standards of conduct for employees.
So on section 1.11, public comment, there was a note here about Corey Spalding, the case of Corey Spalding versus the town of Natick School Committee. I would encourage people to read that, at least a summary of that article. We should make our public comment for all of our boards and elected bodies, committees fit that new ruling. We should be very clear what is allowed and what can be rejected as public comment. Basically, you can't reject terribly much, but there are some things you can. And if you cut off people from public comment, you run the risk, as this showed. So, the only things you can't do is you can't just get out and stand in front of the podium and blare out a string of expletives, and you can't defame somebody, can't threaten somebody's public safety. But otherwise, there's not a lot other than time. There's very little in subject matter that you can do.
So if I want to stand up and talk about the purple men underneath my basement, in my basement for 3 minutes, I can do that. Not that I believe that, but as an
Basically, yeah, you can't get gavelled and, yes.
All right.
But this new line, the blue line has been added, Heather?
Yes, that
Where
was
it's
something.
saying individuals may address topics which are within the scope of the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
So it would
Right.
encourage not having that occur.
Right.
Unless you think that the board can.
So you can say that if somebody brings up something to this group about something that has to do with
Zoning.
school, or that has to do with planning, right? Like something about the Arrow Estates or everything, it's like, you know what? You can gavel somebody. Again, I don't generally encourage it, but you can say, and this is not the responsibility of this board, so that's not a appropriate public comment.
But you have the discretion to let them make the public comment.
Right, right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's scroll by there.
So are we holding on that
No,
amendment, or?
No, I mean, I think that, has that case been included? Is that why that individuals may address topics?
Yes, that's.
But did we talk about
came
stuff
out of
that's
that case.
defamatory or thing that's been ruled that we should hold this and
Okay.
let's revisit that case, because the way that Natick had to revamp their public comment policy, we should probably follow, because it came right out of a court case, and a recent one at
Yeah.
that.
That's why, I suggested that edit, but.
Yep.
Like out of that court case. but-
So do you want to accept the edit into the policy, but then do an additional review of this portion of the policy so
Yeah,
that
that's-
we can update it and then maybe,
That's fine with
Further
me too.
updated.
We could do it in two
because
steps.
I think that line.
Sure.
is
Would you like to
nice.
make that motion?
Sure, we'll make individual motions, or do we want?
Well, let's do the
to
whole thing as
whole
it
thing
is right
and
here,
then
but
we
we'll
could
still put a hold on it to revisit that one more time.
So motion to amend as
as written in front of us.
Section 1.11, public.
So moved.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so that's in there. All right, so then we have the new section 1.14, which is the right of first refusal.
Which is an already adopted procedure, but that's where.
Is the placement okay with people where this is?
Yes.
So I'd entertain a motion that we leave it in that position.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, then we have operational policies. Access to town council, I mean, we're just adding that.
I
was
just
amended.
added the date that it was amended, just so it was clear, because
Okay.
we've done that in a lot of them, so. Kind of a
So
paper
we,
trail.
we don't need a vote for that, I'm
No.
assuming. It's not textual.
No, it's-
All right. So let's go, where do we have other changes? We have section, so smoking, 2.05.
What page are you on now? Okay,
We're on section 2.05. I don't-
Page 12.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, it's page 12, yes. So what are we asking to be changed?
Deleted, smoking is also prohibited in any town-owned or leased vehicle or while an employee is performing his or her job duties, because that's included in the employee handbook, that's employee-related. So this just covers, public buildings, smoke.
Oh, okay, so we're just leaving that one line?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because it's elsewhere.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Do I have a motion to accept that deletion?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Just clarifying, all this content is removed to its new space, a separate.
Correct.
Policy, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. Talent bank form. Okay, so then we have section 2.08. The flag policy has been adopted. Is everybody okay with it in this location?
Yes.
Yes.
Right,
Make a motion, we locate it here.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Investment, that's just an update.
Page 25, I think. Investment?
No, that's just updated, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't need to approve that when it was amended.
All right.
I'm getting dizzy.
I know, I know.
Yeah, when somebody gets to blue, they can just give us all a heads
Yeah,
up.
that's what I'm trying to get to here.
Yeah. This is when paper comes in handy sometimes.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, 'cause you can like.
I work in
put a
technology
paper
all day,
clip.
but man, paper is sometimes invaluable. Is there anything else?
Well, I know we have to go over the social media policy.
Yeah, well, that's the last thing, but that's going to be a work in progress. I think that's going to be something we need to work. So page 70 just hasn't updated again. Oh, here we go. So there's a deletion here under personnel. Oh, the whole personnel
Yeah.
got taken out. Okay.
So I
What
think
page
that's.
are you on now?
That's 71.
Okay.
Yep, so
All
that
right.
should be it within the context.
So that's everything, right, from this point forward?
Yes.
All right,
Unless
so everything
there's
from
any
71
other-
forward. Okay.
Yep, that should be all.
Yeah, and then-
71 forward was all personnel.
So we have something with contractors, 708. What is that? So what is that deletion?
What page you on?
On page 780.
Eight? 80 on the actual page? Okay.
80 on the actual page number, sorry.
Okay.
There's a whole deletion under contractors. There was a whole deletion of section 704, the alcohol and drug policy.
For employees with a commercial driver's license. Is that just a policy, employee policy handbook
Yes.
deletion
Okay,
for the CDL drivers?
okay, so that's just, all right, so
Yep.
that's another in the personnel.
Yep.
So then we'll get back to the social media policy, because I think that's going to be more than tonight's meeting.
And then in section 6, are we renumbering then? 'Cause on the cover sheet,
Yes, everything will have to be renumbered.
And please, I'm a real stickler for this, to have somebody really check each one of them, that we don't have an errant number.
Maybe I'll have you review it.
There you go. Great. Okay, that's why you should never make comments like that. Bitten by my own policy. Nice. All right. So let's talk about the recommendation that we use the Town of Easton's model for the social media policy. Has anybody read this?
no. I mean, yes, but I haven't really dissected this. I thought this was going to be something.
Well, I'm all okay if we
Table it.
right, we table this.
Great.
Everybody read it for the next time it's on the agenda, and come prepared with how we can make it better, what we can modify, something that fits our town.
Do you know when it will be on the agenda again?
I'm assuming probably sometime in September. I don't want to wait too long.
The
Yeah,
20th
right.
is pretty full already. Next week.
Yeah, next week,
so,
next week is not going to work.
Maybe
Next
the
week's gonna
first
be a long
in
meeting.
September?
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we have, our next upcoming meeting is next Tuesday at 7 PM right here, August 20th. And I would see if there's any public comment from the public.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rogers. Fine to see you out this evening.
Good to see you, Mr. Ron.
Dun-dun-dun.
My name is Dave Rogers. I live at 82 Highland Street. And I want to make sure that I heard correctly, Mr. Chairman, what you just said. With specific regard to the policies that you were going over, I think I heard you say, if someone gets up here and talks about the A-row farm or the school, we can gavel them out because this is not the area that should be discussed. Did you not say that?
No, if they ask us,
Say.
it's not just the subject, it's what they're asking. If they're asking questions about the permitting or things that are in the purview, in my example, of the planning board, if somebody came here and decided they wanted to talk about, they think that, Greek should be added as a foreign language in the schools, it could be gavelled as not pertinent to the Board of Selectmen. So that was an example. I don't recommend it. As you know me well enough, I have almost never interrupted anybody for public comment. But it would be allowable by law to do that.
Okay. I'm glad I asked for a clarification, because there is nobody that is as passionate as I am about the freedom to speak and to give one's perception of how he or she feels. Mm-hmm. And every time that is squished, it just absolutely drives me crazy. And I'm not going to go and go into great detail, but I was in Quy Nhon, Vietnam, getting shot at. And I said, if I ever get out of this place alive, I'm going to be a full participant. And I am going to do everything I can to protect all of the freedoms that I can. And pal, when I hear somebody saying, and it's already been done in this town, and I'm not going to go into detail, but, cut you here, cut you there, it's the wrong thing. I think that you as a board should be out there soliciting all the input that you possibly can. And I would hope, Tom, that you'd continue that, because I know that that's something that you feel passionately about. The second thing, this is a thing for clarification, because I thought that I heard my friend say that we've already voted on this building thing. I mean, the people have already approved it. And if that's the case, then I was at the wrong meeting, because there was an impassioned plea, okay, from somebody whom I have the highest regard for, that gentleman right there. And he said, in order for us to make an informed decision, we have to know what the numbers are. And I said, yeah, but we've already spent money with an architectural firm that would give us a rough idea, And my experience in the commercial real estate field for a high-tech company and even in banking, an architect worth their salt can give you a range that's pretty darn close, given the parameters. So I just want, for the record, to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding this thing, because I did not vote for this thing, this addition and all that is going to come up. I voted reluctantly to have money spent so that we could have an informed decision and we would know exactly what the costs would be. Okay? And once again, I'm going to make another impassioned plea that that's one of 5. And I have said from the day number 1, please come back and tell me what the whole package is going to cost. What it's going to cost to keep this building, that building, the Brooks House, and the new renovated building that you're proposing. That's all I want. And I can't help but feel that I am being led down the primrose path, and I'm waiting for somebody at town meeting to get up and say, well, no, wait a minute, we spent all of this money, I mean, why don't we just do it? Wrong. This is probably one of the biggest decisions that we'll have to make as a community. And I still say, I want to know what the program is, how much it's going to cost for everything, because I can't make an informed decision unless I have all of those numbers. So I wanted to make sure that I was on the right path. Am I?
So to your first point, I will
Yep.
make it clear again.
Okay.
What was approved at town meeting was exactly what you defined, which was approval of monies to do a further design and study of the TC Passios building as it pertains to, I just want to be clear, to consolidated town offices, school use, and community use space. It is to assemble a plan for that building. So in that part, you are absolutely right, and we've talked about it a little bit before this evening. I want, if nothing else, anybody listening to this,
What do you mean you talked about it a little bit before
well,
this
because
evening?
it was brought up, Mr. Jeffries had said something, and Mrs. Adams corrected him to correct what you just said, that we didn't approve a plan, we approved money to get a plan.
We put a process.
Right. So that is 100% true.
Okay.
If people walk away from tonight's meeting with no other understanding, it's that there is no plan that's approved. We approved money to further study the actual TC Passios use of those 3 items that I just named.
Okay.
So that's number 1.
Okay.
Now, to your second point of will you see a plan that would have all 5 buildings, it is the goal of this board, one of our Board of Selectmen goals, to come up with what will happen at the primary school, because that has been the longest standing vacant. And then this one was, this building, TC Passios, that we just formed the committee for, was approved at town meeting. Will you see something on all 5? My answer would be probably not, because it is such an overwhelmingly daunting task that it has too many moving parts, and we have decided that we need to focus our attention on pieces at a time that can go forward. I understand your desire to want a comprehensive plan, and I fully appreciate that, but I think this board, and I'll let the other members speak if I am speaking out of turn, but I think we decided that that has not, in a comprehensive way, that has not worked, because the numbers get to be too fluid, they're not solid enough, and to look at all 5 buildings that were looked at and come up with a plan for everything, people start shifting things around, and then it gets to be unwieldy, and I don't think we can put a plan together, to be honest.
Mr. Chair, if I may respond
Mrs.
to
Adams.
the public comments. First, your first public comment, and thank you for your story and your service, and something that came to my mind when you brought up the topic of public commenting is my first public comment in here ever was student safety and security and student resource officer, and I was told by a selectman, you're at the wrong space, go to school committee. Well, it turns out I wasn't, because I needed to advocate for increased funding to the public safety budget to add a officer to have a student resource. So I was in the right place that night, but I walked out of here confused, went to school committee, they kind of said, you're not welcome here with your thought. And so I think people should bring their thoughts anywhere because they're at the beginning of something sometimes and they got to find out where to go. So I think we probably definitely, and I think we've done a good job at listening to a lot of public comments, and I would
I think you
encourage
have.
us to
I think
keep
you have,
doing
and I don't
that.
want that changed personally.
And then on your second topic, and I don't remember when you came in, but I specifically halted another selectman from saying that the town has voted to move there, because that's propaganda. That's using
not
an
what I said.
article that is to get the figure, because people will know more whether or not they want to move there when they know what the cost is. And we have just kicked this thing around for years without a cost. And you know that because you speak about it. And so I stopped to clarify to say that the article was to study it and not to do it. And there's a very distinct difference.
Okay.
And I'd also,
So thank you for bringing that up.
I'd also like to respond to, it's always good to see you, Mr. Rogers.
As well, back at you, pal.
So, earlier, and I appreciate Selectman Adams's correction earlier, because I think it could have been interpreted differently than I intended, which was really to say that the town has voted to move into this direction, meaning to study this, to look into this,
That's fine.
that we've moved kind of in that direction. Okay. On the other point, I agree with you. When we were deciding about the comprehensive plan, when we were deciding our goals this year, I believe I took the position that what happens on one property affects another property. And so if we isolate our viewpoint to just focus on the primary school, anything that, what about the Ritter building, right? Because then you're limited with what you can do with the Ritter. And then how does this all impact the other schools? So I think that there should be a more comprehensive plan, but I also have to come back to the ground level here and how I perceive it, which is that the town, because of the conflicting views, it puts us at this standstill where for 13, 15 years, we're doing nothing because we can't agree on a comprehensive plan. And so we're sitting back letting nothing happen. And I think that we have to at least, and even though at the time I didn't agree with the board's decision to go in this direction, I still have some reservations about the limited scope, but I do believe that we have to give the town something that says we've been looking at the primary school for the last 15 years, and here's a plan to resolve this one issue. And that, we need to restore confidence in the community that this board can give and present real solutions that make sense, and that it's part of a larger picture. But I think that step 2 is we can't piecemeal it. That after we figure out what to do with the primary building in that area, I think we do need a comprehensive plan that talks about the rest of the properties. But I'm concerned about the standstill, and I think this seems to be the one approach we haven't really taken yet. And so I'm hoping that this will get us a better result than what we've been able to get for the last decade and a half.
For the record, okay, I want something to happen. I want to be proactive on something. But in order for me, at 75 years old, to vote affirmatively on anything, I want to know what it's going to cost me. And I don't think that that's unreasonable. I really don't. So to that effect, or to that end rather, you understand it. I'm not here to say anything more than that. But I mean, you've got to do something that satisfies this need for people to understand. Sure. My last point, and I hope I'm wrong. I truly hope that I'm wrong. I've come before this board and the planning board and the finance committee and talked about the A-Row farm and the development up there. And I've gone through the numbers. 98 houses that are going to be either 3 or 4 bedroom units with all kinds of roads and all of that kind of thing. So there's going to be a big impact on our community, okay? And necessarily, I think there's going to be a big impact on our school. Which schools? I don't know. But common sense tells me if there's just one kiddo in there, it's 98 more kids, okay? So it's of concern to me. And now, all of a sudden, when I broach this subject, some very knowledgeable, influential people, none of which are on this board, have said, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about that. It'll be fine. You know why, I think? Because they want to flip under the rug the fact that we've got to make a decision on the Passio School. And I'm not a smart guy, but common sense tells me that if you have to do something in the school realm, it probably would make some good common sense to look at what we have. That's just me speaking now, okay? So I hope that we're not going to get into this political stuff and say, you know, this is not an issue, Dave, for the school, you know, the kids, blah, 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 blah. And it comes back to bite us, okay? I truly don't, because I really care about this town and its people, as you do and a lot of other people do. So we've got to be really careful. And the symposium about where we're going and all that stuff is good. But, you know, I think you get the gist of where I'm coming from. And I really hope that we can continue to talk in public forums, not get gavelled. And Tom, I really appreciate what you've done. Your history is that you've always allowed people to talk, and I think that's very important. And we've got to do that for obvious reasons. So I thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the clarification. And I hope that we can work together to get this thing done. And please, just let me know what it's going to cost. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Any other public comment from the public? Okay, any public comment from the board?
No.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion that we go into executive session, not to return to open session, under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Reason Number 1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. This is concerning the Conservation Commission chairman, and that we will adjourn from the meeting after executive session. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a roll call vote. Mr. Jeffries.
Aye.
Mrs. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. McQuaid.
Aye.
Mrs. Luck.
Aye.
Aye for me. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday night.
We don't have
This is my
anything on.
first meeting with an executive session on.